no, I have no makeup on, no.
Oh, Peaches, I'll reach out to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah. Nobody can believe we're married.
We're live now. It's going to live. So you can see it on my YouTube. And here I go with the intro to the show. Hope you see it there, Peter.
Let me look.
Hello, Facebook. How are you today? This is Comic Spot. It's for you and it's for my guests. It ain't about me. This is where I've interviewed 863 comedians so far, if you include Bobby Rydell, and and you do, because he started out with traveling with Red Skelton, doing impressions. So today's interview is going to be off the chart fun. Oh my gosh, you just stay right there. Don't go anywhere. Put your feet up and just get ready to be entertained in the comfort of your own home. Comic Spot is always brought to you by an organization I belong to, which is called the Veterans of Comedy. And when I say veterans, I don't mean in time, I mean of the military. So if you're ever looking for someone who served our country to serve you up some jokes, go to theveransofcomedy.com and hire me. Okay, maybe some other people too. Anyway, that's my PSA for the day. Now, to turn the entire focus of this time to my guest, for the purposes of you at home to get to know, love, follow, like, support him and his amazing career and things he has going on now. Let's get to know and love the Peter Bales. Let me read you the little intro I've concocted. He's a professor. He's a doctor. He has performed in countless comedy clubs. Yeah, I can still count mine. He's got countless ones. He's performed for corporate events. He's performed at colleges. I tried to perform at college, but I dropped out. I'm sorry to tell you, it was the 60s. What can I say? He's been on TV. You probably have seen him. He's been on Fox, A&E, Comedy Central, Lifetime. It takes a lifetime to get through this. MTV, VH1. He has a Comedy Hour podcast on the XM satellite radio station. He's a historian and he's a professor of history and American something that I can't read my writing. American, don't abbreviate and try to fake it.
American history.
Thank you. I don't know why I put GAT. He's working for the CUNY, SUNY in New York at the Queensborough College. He's doing stand-up memories with the amazing Jackie the Joke Man, Martling. Notice I had to look down at my paper.
Right. You're doing fine. It's a long intro. I'm sorry.
That's okay. This man has been doing comedy well over 3 decades.
Hey, listen to this. I started in 1979. You know who was president then? Jimmy Carter.
Wow.
When I started.
And I don't know peanuts about history.
Well, very good. A lot of people are going to get that. He was a peanut farmer. You're absolutely right. From Georgia. Long time ago.
And now he builds houses.
Yes, he's a great ex-president. We're not so sure about how he did when he was president, but he's been one of our greatest ex-presidents. And we used to make jokes about his big, smiling piano teeth. And remember, he had a brother who was a colorful character, Billy Carter. Oh, time flies.
Yes, I'm surprised Billy Carter didn't become president too, kind of like the Bush.
That was a different kind of dynasty, I think. That's hysterical. Billy Carter, a lot of people from that generation will remember him. He was quite a character. He loved his beer. Billy Beer, remember?
Yes. Oh wow. My gosh. I remember
I started at the comic strip and it was 1979. And when I auditioned at the comic strip, they had the host of the show, the Monday night audition night, the host would decide who would pass and who would go on to be allowed to come back and perform at the comic strip late at night. And the host at the time was Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That's how
And
long ago it was.
so, and how soon after you got up on stage did you get passed at comic strip?
Well, I was so lucky, unbelievably lucky. I got passed the first night by Jerry.
Oh,
And but what that meant was you could come in and hang out. And back in those days, they were developing comics and they would keep the show going as long as there was a warm body in the audience. They didn't even have to be buying drinks. And I remember going on stage at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:45 in the morning. Back in those days, you might remember, I think audiences stayed out later. It was a later time. And they would have shows going that late and going on for 4 people, 2 people. I have a story about going on for no people.
I'd love to hear that story.
I'd love to tell that. I'll tell it right now. We
Okay.
used to go on because we were happy to get stage time, any stage time, just to go through your act. And if there were 2 people or 4 people there, we were just happy to get on at the comic strip. And one night I went up and it was 2:45 in the morning and there were 4 people in the back and the lights are in my eyes and I couldn't see them because the lights were in my eyes. There's no waitress in the room. They're not drinking. I'm doing my act and I'm not getting any laughs because I was new and I wasn't any good. So it was normal. I wasn't getting any laughs. And those 4 people got up and left. And I didn't know they left. And I kept going and I kept going to no people. Comedians always say, I performed to 4 people. I performed to 2 people. I performed to nobody. And at the comic strip in New York City, there's a window from the bar area that looks in over the stage. And Jerry Seinfeld was hanging out at the bar and he looked through the window and he saw me performing to nobody. And he walked in and he walked down to the side of the stage. All right. And I looked over at him and I'll never forget this as long as I live. He looked at me and it was so sad. He goes, hey, man, there's nobody here. And I just went, oh, okay. So I walked off. So it's hard to top performing for nobody. And thankfully, Jerry pulled me out of my misery. I didn't even know I was in misery, but thank God he put an end to that. Those were the days.
Those were the days. Yeah, the good old comic strip. I love it there. So let's go back. What made you decide to do comedy? Because you're serious. Your credits are like you're a doctor and a professor and a comedian.
I can't write prescriptions. I'm a doctor of history. I'd love to write prescriptions, but I'm not allowed to. I'll tell you something. I think I got the bug in high school when I was cast in the spring musical Brigadoon, and I had the comic role and I stole the show and I was the hero of the school for 4 days. And then I knew, and going into stand-up was a way to get that feeling of having a show actually every night, because back in those days, we were going in and trying to get on stage 7 nights a week. And the feeling of having a show that night is what I experienced first in high school when I performed in Brigadoon in the comic role, and then I pursued it in stand-up comedy.
Wow, that's amazing. And so the students in your school encouraged your funny, but you instinctively knew that was the moment.
Well, yes, I was voted class wit. Not class clown, which is somebody who turns his eyelids inside out, but I was proud to be class wit. And I was influenced I had a very funny father, and I think he was of the old style, remembered vaudeville, of course, but I think he inspired me. And I think I went to college, undergraduate at Northwestern, majored in theater. Believe it or not, I got my master's and my doctorate in history, but I majored undergraduate in theater, loved it, but I wasn't a very good actor. I just simply wasn't, I couldn't do Shakespeare without spitting, as Robert Klein used to say. So I gravitated toward history, but I've done comedy straight through since 1979.
Well, teach me some things, and people that are going to watch this after the fact mostly, teach us some things from your vast knowledge of observing comedians and the industry. What, when you went in, you had a preconceived idea about it or not? And how did it shock you, and the best and the worst you've been through? I want to hear your history.
Well, I'm happy to
Teach
talk
me.
about, I want to talk about a lot of things. As you mentioned, I've got a big podcast with Jackie the Joke Man Marling that is premiering Groundhog Day, which is February 2nd. And then every Wednesday on Hump Day, we're going to drop a new episode. And let me just tell everybody out there, it's very simple to find. www.standupmemories.com, www.standupmemories.com. And you can watch it on YouTube, or you can use any platform to listen to it if you're an audio podcast person. And Jackie and I do what the title says, stand up memories. And we just remember starting out. We remember our experiences performing live and traveling all around the country and interacting with other comics. And we talk about life itself, anything under the sun, and just have fun and have laughs. So that's going to be every Wednesday. I want to plug that. And I want to put, and you're asking me about starting out in comedy and advice for comedians. For 23 years, I'm a Long Island guy based out in New York. For 23 years at the Brokerage Comedy Club in Belmore, New York, which is now owned by the Governor's Clubs, I've taught a comedy school called Stand Up University. And Linda, what we do is we take new comedians, people who have never done comedy before, and in the course of 6 weeks, we will get them to do their first 5 minutes in a show before their family and friends. And in 23 years, we've, teachers won't tell you this, but you learn more from teaching than you do from taking. So we've learned a lot from our students and how to do this and what it takes to start for the first time on stage. So many people out, this, so many people out there want to do stand-up comedy, but only a select few actually do it because it takes a lot of guts to get on stage for the first time. I bet you remember your first time ever on stage, right?
Yes.
Where was it?
It was in Murrieta, California at Ace's Comedy Club. And
Oh,
I did my first joke, and I heard two comics in the front row say, "I've heard that before." I
was
figured
it a
I better.
positive? It was scary, right? It was very nerve-wracking and
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
Uh,
Tell me about your first time.
Oh my goodness. I I tried to do a set before a fraternity party at college, and I literally got booed off the stage. I didn't know what I was doing, and it was so traumatizing. I didn't try comedy again for months and months and months. That's why, and I'll say this to everybody out there who's thinking about trying stand-up comedy, if you can take a class and then do your first show, which is essentially a recital before your family and friends, it's a very positive environment and atmosphere and experience that's much better than just showing up cold someplace to do your first comedy set.
Yes, absolutely. I know some people, some of my comedy friends, even in New York, they go to all of those graduation shows and classes that they can.
Yes, I highly recommend it. You're not going to do that forever. Eventually, you're going to hit the open mic nights. Stage time is premium. It's very difficult to get it. And hitting open mic nights, and sometimes the entire audience is just other comedians, but you've got to do it. And you know that when you start out, it's tough. You make all kinds of mistakes. You B-O-M-B, bomb. Let's face it. It's part of becoming a comedian. And then you realize, hey, I'm not bombing as much as in fact, hey, wait a second, that was pretty good. And tonight was better than last night, but it's hard work. There's no free lunch.
Yes. it's such a process, like peeling an onion, because when you first start off, you're doing a certain kind of shtick, and eventually you get to where you relate and you're writing about your life and people know you're in the moment. Talk about that transition.
Well, I always recommend when people are starting out that they introduce themselves to the audience, talk about themselves. When you're more established, you can do observations because people might be interested in your observations. But when you're starting out, the audience wants to know who you are. Do we like this person? Oh, are we threatened by this person? Who is this person? So that's what your first 5-6 minutes should really be about, who you are. Funny people in funny situations, and hopefully the funny person is you.
What is
That's what I tell people starting out in comedy. Absolutely.
what is the funniest thing you've experienced in your comedy life, or some funny thing?
I'll tell you this one. I was performing at the original improvisation long time ago. I bet it was the early 80s, very early 80s. Um, and I'm hosting 44th and Ninth, the original, you know, improv where Bud Friedman started. And I'm hosting, and I'm a young, wise guy with a chip on my shoulder. And when you are hosting, you ask the audience, what do you do for a living? And I asked the guy right down front, what do you do for a living? And he said to me, he looked at me and he said in a loud voice, I'm Darth Vader. And I laughed and I started telling the audience, well, clearly we've got a mental patient here. The audience was laughing. Mental patient here. He doesn't know who he thinks he's Darth Vader from Star, and I started making fun of him. And he stood up, Linda. He stood up and he was very, very tall. And he walks up on stage and he takes out a business card and he hands me the business card. And it says, David Prowse, Darth Vader. And he was the actor who did Darth Vader in Star Wars. He wasn't the voice, that was James Earl Jones, but the actual guy inside the suit was Darth Vader. I said to a guy, what do you do for a living? He said Darth Vader. Everybody laughed. I made fun of him and he stood up and he was Darth Vader. I still can't believe that happened. And then he went on other television shows and told that story and made fun of me because I deserved it. What do you do for a living? I'm Darth Vader. I'll never forget that.
That speaks to something that young comedians do, is that sometimes we're so busy, trying to entertain the audience, we miss a point. Like we talk too much or we talk over someone when we're doing crowd work. And so like now when you do crowd work, you probably would have caught that.
Well, I'll tell you something. Crowd work is a dying art form. Hosting is a dying art form. And I recommend to people who want to do crowd work is, first of all, relax. First of all, realize you have the microphone, you have the advantage, the audience is on your side, and take your time. You don't have to have a great response to an audience member in half a second or 1 second or 2 seconds. Take your time, relax, and be yourself and just naturally respond. And when you're talking to the audience, if you don't have an immediate joke, and you probably won't, keep them talking because you got the microphone. Keep asking them questions. They're going to trip themselves up. You have the advantage. You're there. You win every time. But most of all, relax when you're doing crowd work and interacting like that.
That's super. So you've performed at countless clubs across the United States. And who wouldn't be mystified by someone who's done that since 1979? There's got to be huge, funny differences between clubs.
Then and now. Then and now, what's the difference?
Yeah, tell us from your point of view what all you've experienced with the
Oh
different
boy,
clubs.
I mean, people did material in the 80s that you couldn't begin to do today, and I think justifiably so. Certainly, the rule is, and I teach my comedy students this about, ethnic and racial humor. You can joke about yourself, but today You certainly cannot and should not joke about somebody else. But you can certainly talk about your own situation, but making fun of somebody else's race or ethnicity is taboo. Um, Also, misogyny was much more common in the 1980s, and now it doesn't play at all. Thankfully, good. I think we're comedians listen to the audience. The audience listens to comedians, and as society changes, I think for the better. I think comedy changes. I think for the better. So I'm actually encouraged, and I'm really encouraged that of late at my comedy school, it's been running for 23 years. Standupuniversity.com, by the way, everybody out there, standupuniversity.com. We're now getting more women than ever before. Without a doubt, more women than ever before going into stand-up comedy.
That's fabulous. So women talk differently. Women process receiving information differently. So what have you noticed from your observations of women in comedy in a positive way because of the
Oh, I
difference?
have so many. I've been blown away by so many terrific, terrific female comedians over the years. And I'll tell you something else. I love female audience members. And the best audience for a comedian is a mixed audience. If you have a guy with his wife or his girlfriend or a bunch of guys and they're with their girlfriends or wives, they're going to be smarter. They're going to be better behaved. They're not going to be drinking so much, and they're going to be a better audience. What's worse than a group of 20 guys as an audience who are drinking a lot? What is infinitely better is 10 guys with their wives out to have a good time for the evening. And I just, female comedians there were great ones in the 80s, and there's more now, and they're breaking all kinds of barriers. And I think it's a terrific thing for comedy in general.
Absolutely. I think at the top of my list for famous female comedians in my lifetime would be Rita Rudner, Wendy Liebman, Kathy Ladman. So have you been around?
All three of those I've worked with and love them. And they are just so great and so professional and so funny. And they're funny off stage as well as on stage. I love them. Let me tell you, I met Rosie O'Donnell at the East Side Comedy Club on Long Island, Long Island's first full-time comedy club. And she was 16. She was lying about her age the other way. She was trying to say she was 18. She was 16. And I was the director of an improv group. We can talk about improvisation.
Yes.
Very important for comedians to get some improv experience. I really think it helps your stand-up. Improv and stand-up, not the same thing, but very close cousins, in my opinion. I was directing an improv group, and Rosie was in it. She started when she was 16. And my God, she was a natural right from the beginning. She's a terrific stand-up, had a lot of success. I like that she has the guts to say what she wants to say. And I guess you love her or you hate her. I happen to love her. And I remember starting out with her. I remember Rita Rudner blows me away with how she crafts each joke. Wendy Liebman is an absolute treat. So is Kathy Ladman. Many others. There are just so many great. I think people today know that. But in the 80s, boy, there were a lot of people with attitude toward female comedians, and that's been changing over the years. And I'm not saying we're there yet, but we're getting there.
Good. That's great. So what is the best lesson that you've learned when you've been on stage performing your comedy?
The best lesson the best advice I've ever gotten as a comedian.
Okay. Yes.
And when I got the advice, I thought it was the worst advice at the time. And then years later, you realize, that was the best advice I ever got. And there's a comedian and actor, terrific, a guy I used to know at the comic strip named Larry Miller. And he I was struggling with many things, and you want to get ahead and you want to get on stage and you'd kill your grandmother to get on 15 minutes earlier at the comic strip. You get so into yourself and lose sight of what's important. And I was looking for advice from Larry Miller, and he said, "Hey man, just do the right thing." And I thought at the time, and I'm in my 20s, do the right thing. How's that going to help me? How am I going to get past this? How am I going to get on earlier? This guy's trying to take my spot. No, it's a cliche, but it's true. It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And if you do the right thing, over time, things work out. Just do the right thing. I know it sounds corny, Linda. I know it does, but it's simple. Do the right thing. Be nice to people. I always tell comedy students, look, don't ever do anything beneath your dignity. You don't have to, kiss ass to get ahead in comedy, but you have to be a nice person. How about that? That's all you have to do. And it's not worth it to, complain to bookers and comedy club owners about $50. It's not about that. It's about getting stage time, if you're funny, these things work out. The funnier you get, the fewer problems you have, the fewer issues you have. Get funny and be nice. And I know you might want more to hold on to in advice, but that's the best advice I can give.
I love that. There's like with actors, there's SAG-AFTRA, a union. With comedians, it's like each man for himself or woman. And so a lot of times comedians feel like they have nobody that's helping them. They're their own agent. Can you speak to the amount of effort and passion and focus it takes to actually try to make it in the business? Because people think, oh, it's comedy, it's easy.
Oh, it's comedy. It's hard. It's so hard. And comedians, when you're starting out, or when you're a comedian, comedians doing it for a while all know this. There's no set rules. There's no plan that you have to follow. It's you. It's all about you and what feels right for you. And you're going at your pace. You're not racing against anybody else. Do what's right for you. Okay. And don't worry about getting a manager. Don't worry about getting an agent. That's another thing that drives me crazy, is people don't know the difference between a manager and an agent, and people shouldn't try to be both. But that's another story. What you have to do is follow your own path. And I really recommend that when you're at the clubs, open mic nights or at the clubs, or network with other comedians, talk to other comedians. I've made so many friends. You know what? When you're on a show with other comedians, talk to them. They're just, comedians are nice. And I also argue that comedians are smart. You can't be a successful comedian and not be high intelligence. This is so hard to do. A lot of comedians play like they're stupid on stage, but in real life, you got to be super smart to play stupid, for goodness sake. Go at your own pace. Like I say, do the right thing, network with other comedians. The vast majority of comedians are just so nice and great to get to know. And in a sense, we're all in it together. And in a sense, we're all kind of lonely because, going on the road is very lonely. Figuring out what your career path is, and it's not going to be the same as anybody else, is lonely. And it's great to talk to other comedians because you think you've got it rough. Some of them have it a lot rougher than you do.
Absolutely. Have you ever felt like somebody gave you the wrong advice on purpose?
I love this. I love this question. On my podcast with Jackie, standupmemories.com, I tell a story. Linda, I swear this is true. I'm in the green room of the East Side Comedy Club on Long Island. And there's a teenager who's just starting out in comedy, and he's pretty darn impressive for a teenager. And his name was Eddie Murphy. and he was attending Nassau Community College. And he was thinking about, I really think I should focus more on my comedy career. I think I'm going to drop out of college. And then he actually asked me, what do you think? And I said, Eddie, I think you should stay in college so you have something to fall back on. And you know what? I told that story to somebody, and there's a funny comedian. I don't know if you know him. He's a Connecticut guy now, but he's all over the place. His name is Max Tocelli. And I told him that story, what I told to Jackie, what I told to Eddie Murphy. And Max Tocelli goes, I once worked with Jeff Foxworthy, and I took him aside and I said, hey, Jeff, if you want to succeed in this business, you're going to have to get rid of all that redneck material you're doing. Drop all that redneck stuff. You're crazy if you want to get ahead in this business. There's lots of bad advice out there, and I've given some of it. Stay true to, you know what? You can't go wrong if you stay true to yourself.
Yes. You spoke a little bit about being yourself. I'd like to bring up the topic of being authentically you and digging deep. How has that process been for you? And because it's so important to be up there and have people know that you're not just making up jokes for joke's sake, but you're really speaking from your own experience. What's it been like for you becoming more and more authentic?
All right, here I have a strong, these are great questions. I have a strong opinion about this. Stand-up comedy, your character on stage needs to be based in truth. It has to be really you. But then as a comedian, you're also a joke writer, and it's necessary to exaggerate and twist. Exaggerate and twist, so that by the time the piece of material or joke reaches an audience, it's not literally true, but it's based in truth. And then you've taken it and you've crafted it into a joke through the technique of setup, punch, or more accurately, topic, premise, punchline.
Got it.
All right, you got it. There's gonna be a quiz after this, so pay attention, everybody at home.
I have one more question before we go back and let you plug all that you're doing presently, but I'd like to know, I've asked a lot of people this same question wherever I go if they're a comedian. Everybody says they do, and they tell me their joke. Everybody I've asked has a joke that rarely works well, and they refuse to give the joke up.
That is so great. That is so, well, listen, again, I have opinions about everything, including this. Now, the toughest thing for a comedian is to realize that a joke that you love, the audience doesn't love. You love it. The audience loves it. And I'm sorry, but what you have to realize is you don't get to decide what's funny. The audience gets to decide what's funny. And if it's not working, try all sorts of things to try and fix it. But eventually you have to either fish or cut bait, and cut bait in the case of a joke that you like, but it just doesn't work. And some comedians are better at that than others. You know what? I was actually mentored by Jerry Seinfeld. I got to know him a bit, very much. I don't know him now, but in the beginning, watched him every night for a couple of years, got to know him really well. And I remember him saying, and I'll never forget this, he said, if a joke works 9 out of 10 times, you have to drop it.
What?
And he's absolutely right. He couldn't be more right. If a joke works 9 out of 10 times, you've got to drop it. Wow. Because why wouldn't it work 10? It has to work 10 out of 10 times. if all things being equal. I mean, you can't suddenly stand in the Port Authority in New York City and do a great joke and get a laugh. But if the audience is right and the mic is right and the lighting is right and everything's right and a joke works 9 out of 10 times, he's 100% right that you have to drop it. He was, even then, super young as he was, and I think I met him when he was 24, and I was a tiny bit younger. He would say, when you go up on stage, you have to wear a belt. Why? Why do you have to wear a belt? The jeans and a t-shirt. Why do you have to wear a belt? Because the audience is going to look at you and subconsciously they might think something's missing. You don't want the audience even subconsciously distracted from what you are doing, which is, here I am, here's my joke. You don't want them looking over here. You don't want them looking over there. You don't want them looking at you and wondering something's missing, but I don't know what. Oh, his belt. That's
Wow.
why, and Linda, that's why comedy clubs traditionally have the brick wall. You know why the brick wall's behind comics?
No.
Because there's no distraction. You don't want pictures and distracting things on the back wall because it's all about the comic and all about their joke. That's why the brick wall is the best background.
I'm learning so much. You are a professor of history. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for all your insights.
Well, I've been doing this so long, Linda. I opened for Aristotle. I did. I love this. This is so much fun. You're great. I love you. You're a great interviewer. You got these great questions.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Can I quote you?
You can quote me anytime.
Okay, cool. Tell us all the places where you're at again. I like you to say it in context and then repeat it at the end, please.
Well, aren't you nice? I'm very excited about my new podcast with Jackie the Joke Man Martling. A new side of Jackie, by the way. He was on Howard Stern slinging jokes, and now we're getting deeper into life. And it's so much fun. It's called Stand Up Memories, and a new episode drops every Wednesday morning for Hump Day. And all you have to do out there is go to www.standupmemories.com. And I really recommend Stand Up University. It's here on Long Island, but if you're somewhere around the country and you're thinking about doing stand-up comedy, okay, I don't care who you are, do it. The hardest, take a class, and they're around, there are good ones out there. Take a class. The hardest step is through the door the first day. Then you're off to the races and you will experience something very new and exciting in life. My class is Stand Up University, and again, standupuniversity.com. And there are a lot of other terrific classes taught around the country by really good comedians. Great way to start. I couldn't recommend it more.
Thank you so much. And every single comedian teaching owes Peter Bales a thank you for saying that. He didn't have to do that.
Well, it's true.
Yes, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to make sure that I'm signed up for everything, and I'm going to be watching your podcast that you do on Wednesdays, and I'm going to get on your email list finally on your website. And
Yay.
I'm now a real fan because I've watched your videos and you let me interview you. Thank you so much. You can get a tattoo 864. That's the number that you are with me.
That is an incredible number. It really is.
Thank you. I'm a hopeless overachiever. Thank you so much.
Oh, Linda, you're great.
Peter
So nice
Bales.
to see you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Peter.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.